All right, so in this week's lesson, we're going to learn how to play a ragtime style blues. At least that's what I'm calling it. And it's so much fun to play. There's two components to this. There's a rhythm and a lead. So there's this really cool fingerstyle rhythm, which is like a standalone composition. So that sounds great on its own. Actually, here's what it sounds like, just a little piece of it. So anyway, there's that whole part. So that's a separate video. In this video, we're going to learn how to play just the lead part. And I'll show you where all the notes come from, so how you can play lead on top of that. And believe it or not, 90% of this lead is just the E major pentatonic scale. There's two positions of the pentatonic scale. It's not like you're learning a whole bunch of new scales or complicated things. This is stuff you already know. We will be adding some notes to that pentatonic scale to touch on the chord tones of chords as they pass by, but that's what we're going to be looking at. It's not intimidating though. It's very doable. So if you like the extra materials for this lesson, the tab for the rhythm part, the tab for the lead part, the MP3 jam track, all those extra materials, you can get those by going to activemelody.com and doing a search for EP613. Okay, so now let's talk about this song structure. So this is a blues that's played in the key of E, and I'm calling it ragtime. Why did I call it ragtime? Well, ragtime is more of a rhythm thing. It's more of a syncopated rhythm that you hear a lot of times on piano. But there's also some chords that go with a lot of those ragtime songs. I think of like Scott Joplin or even like a Bessie Smith song. And so I wanted to kind of create something in that style. And so the chords for this, in a typical blues, you would have like a 1-4-5, right? So if you're playing in the key of E, your 1 chord would be E, your 4 chord would be A. But sometimes I hear this in like a ragtime style where you go 1, your 1 chord, you'll play the flat 4, so that's an A flat, then you play your A. So isn't that cool? Just that one change. Actually, if I was doing it fingerstyle, it'd be then to the 4, then back to the 1. So that's the first little chord progression that we're going to be looking at and what makes it different from a standard blues. Okay, so I started with this. Let's look at that. And I come in right on the 1. I started, just played the 5 chord, which is your B7. And then, now I'm coming up to the 4th fret on the 1st string, and then up to the 7th fret on that 1st string. So those are your first 2 notes. Those notes are out of your E major pentatonic scale pattern 4. So let's just get our bearings. Let's look at our E chord here using the C shape. Now, you don't have to play that chord. I'm just using that as a sort of an anchor so that we can see where we're at. Now, inside of that chord shape, I've got my E major scale, and I've also got my E major pentatonic scale, and we call that pattern 4. So when I'm playing this, it's right out of E major pentatonic scale pattern 4. And most of what we're going to be doing is going to be inside of this pattern. So I played that over the E, right? Then the song goes to the A flat. And then I played this. So I hit the same 4th fret, and then I came to that 7th fret, but pushed that one sharp. And so what I was trying to hit was this note. And when I played that, when I improvised that and came up with the part, I wasn't thinking about why that works. I did learn why it worked. I had to think about it after the fact. But what I was doing was I was hitting this note, which is the 3rd interval of that A flat chord. That note right there, your 3 of your chord, that's a very stable note. If you ever want to know which note to land on, especially if you're playing over some different chords like this, the 3rd interval is always very, very stable. It's a great note to land on. And so my ear just drew me to that. I didn't know why it was working when I was doing it, but I knew that that was the note I was going for. It's also, what is that song? There's an old song that has that same melody line. I don't know. Somebody out there will leave a comment and tell me what that is. But Hoochie Coo is the line or something. Anyway, so it's like this. Then I came down to that 7th fret 2nd string. And then I played this as the song goes to the A. I played. Let's look at that. Now, most of this is just that E major pentatonic scale pattern 4. So when I'm on the 2nd string here, 5th fret to the 7th fret, there's a little half bend release. Back to the 5th fret. And then I come down to the 6th fret 3rd string, and then watch this, 4, 6. Now that's still just E major pentatonic scale, pattern 4, but watch this. I came to this note. Why did my ear lead me to this note? Because at that point, the jam track had gone back to the E, and this note is the flat 7 in your E. So if I was playing an E7 chord, that's the note that colors that chord. And so I was just sort of pulling the listener's ear to that note. And that's what playing lead is. It's just finding these chord tones. And I'm telling you, the more of this that you do and the more of this that you can become familiar with that sound, the better at this you'll get. And there's really just a few notes that really work. It's like that flat 7, that's one. The 3, as we landed on the 3, that's one. Those are probably the 2 main ones. If you can hit the 3rd interval of a chord, whether it be a flat 3 for a minor chord or a major 3rd for a major chord, or that flat 7, that really colors the sound of what you're trying to do. All right, so at this point, there's going to be some new chords that we're going to be playing over. So the song goes back to the A, then it goes to an A sharp diminished 7, and then back to the E, or the 1, and then watch this. We go to our major 6 chord, that's our C sharp major, or C sharp 7, and then we go to an F sharp, and then to the 5, and then back to the 1. And what we did when we played these extra chords, like that C sharp, F sharp, B7, this C sharp is the 5 chord of F sharp, which is the 5 chord of B7, which is the 5 chord of E. And so that's a common little turnaround that you hear in a lot of songs. And you've probably, if you've been watching my lessons, you've seen me do this a lot of times. The 5 chord of the 5 chord of the 5 chord of the 1 chord. It's really just a 6-2-5-1 turnaround like you'd hear in jazz, but the 6 and the 2 are major. And so what I ended up playing over that, and remember the chords are A sharp diminished 7, E, C7. Now you don't have time to process all of that, I realize, but there's a sound you can get by just staying in your pentatonic scale. And so what I played was, and that's just that E major pentatonic scale basically. There's some chromatic notes there by sliding into it. So going from this 5th fret to the 6th fret on the 3rd string, 5th fret 2nd string, another slide into that 7th fret 2nd string. Now watch this. And what I did there was I came to, that's where the song goes to that C7, C sharp 7 rather. I went to that note, which is the 3rd interval of that chord. Here's my C sharp chord. There's that note. And so I just walked chromatically down from this 9th fret, 9, 8, 7, 6. And you've heard that line in other things, this little, going down to the 3rd interval of that major 6 chord. You know, that's not the first time you've heard that. So going back from the beginning here, we've got, you can already kind of hear the chords even without them, just by hitting those chord tones. And now the song would go to that F sharp and then to the B7, and I played this. And these notes are just E major pentatonic scale pattern 4. And then I slid up to pattern 5 of my E major pentatonic scale. So altogether that lick, or that phrase, and I landed on that note, which is my B note, because that's the chord we're playing over. Now, again, I was using my ear to guide me. I was not thinking about this being a B note when I was playing that. I was just staying in the pentatonics and using the pentatonics to just, I knew the shapes, my fingers know how to do the dance inside them. So I was just feeling that out and going where my ear told me to go. All right, so now the chords are going to repeat. We go back to the E, the A flat, the A, and I did the same thing I did the first time. The only difference this time, that's the same. Instead of me doing the bend on that 7th fret first string, I just hit the note. I just went to it directly, to the 8th fret. So it's, and remember, that's the 3rd interval of my A flat chord. And then after that, I played E major pentatonic scale, pattern 4. And then as the chords go back to that A sharp diminished 7, E, 6, 2, 5, 1, I played this. To get me to the C sharp 7. And all I'm doing is staying in E major pentatonic scale. With the exception of this, that little chromatic note there, that one passing tone. So that's all E major pentatonic scale, except for that one note, that note there. And then we go up to pattern 5. And then the final lick there goes. So again, E major pentatonic scale, pattern 4. Little bend there again on that 7th fret 2nd string. And then I came down to the 4th fret 3rd string, 4, 6, and then landed on that E note there, 5th fret 2nd string. All right, I'm going to wrap up the part 1 video right there, and I hope that you've picked up some ideas and realized this is just major pentatonic scale. I use that as a framework, and from there we've added some notes to that to make it sound better and sort of match the chords. That's really all it is, using one scale as your framework and then building on that. Come join us at Active Melody for part 2, where we'll go over the second half of this lead. And also remember, as an added bonus, I've got the tab for that fingerstyle rhythm as well. So you can learn how to play this entire composition, both rhythm and lead parts, if you're interested. All right, we'll see you in part 2.